They know we can't fight this stuff. They already know when you walk up in that courtroom, you already look guilty. You look like you did this. They don't understand our way of dress, the way we express ourselves with our hair. They don't understand that all they see is you fit that description. You look like that. You look like someone that did it. Yo, okay, I'm back. What it is, it's your girl Cadillac. And my phone yesterday, you already know what happened. It cut off because the storage was full. Still working on that situation. But I guess when I watched the playback of the video I put out, it couldn't have been at a better time. I think it ended perfectly, actually. But where I left off, I was talking about the response after my after going to trial with my loved one. And I was telling, like, recreating the scene of how it was and what happened, because there are a lot of emotions that I have kept bottled down inside of me for years. I've kept these bottled inside of me, and I don't want them inside anymore. They don't do me no good. They just fester inside. It's time to come out, and I'm releasing it here on YouTube, whether y'all watch or whether y'all don't, because even me watching it back, I can feel that pain. That's pain. Those are pain. Those are tears. That's cries for help. It's so much. And I could feel it. I could feel it. So where I left off with this story was that my mother, I had been laying in the bed, I don't know how many days. Didn't keep track of time or anything. I don't know how long it was, but I laid in that same bed, in the same clothes that I wore to court with Marcello for days. And you know, I had a little 2-month-old really at this time. Oh no. By the time we went to trial, she was 9 months. She was 9 months old. And my mother took care of her during that time. I was not even available. I wasn't even available to myself. I laid in the bed, and you know you can't do that with the 9-month-old. So my mother came to me one day, and I'm laying in the bed, and she was like, "Keita, you got to move on with your life. You got to move on. I'm sorry this happened, but you got to move on." And I thought she was being so cruel, like my mother was tough, like I was telling y'all. Like she was no nonsense. There's no time for that. Figure this out. You know what I mean? Which really meant get your butt up out that bed and keep it moving. Okay, because that's what a lot of us do with our pain. That's what she had to do with her pain. When there was pain and there was things she had to deal with and she didn't know how to deal with them, you just got to keep it moving. That's what you got to do. You just got to keep moving. You got kids. I had kids. She had kids. You can't stop. You got to move on. You got to get it together. You know how many lives depending on you getting it together? How many lives depend on me getting it together, including my own life? So I got to get it together. That's what she meant. But I didn't take it that way. When you're younger, your mind just ain't developed. You don't clearly understand everything. And I thought she was doing it out of a place of just being mean or just not understanding. No, she did that out of a place of love. She loved me. And she couldn't see me stay in that hole. Get up, Keita, and figure it out. My dad came to me, and surprising enough, he had a whole different response. My dad, he's a person that don't have a lot of words. But when he got something to say, he gonna say what he got to say, then he's gone. He's not gonna beat you over the head with it. He gonna keep on telling you he said it, and that's it. But he gonna say what he got to say when it's that time. And he came to me and he was like, you know, Keita, it's not always fair. Things like this that happen, they're out of our control. You can't always, you know, it's not always fair. You can't always determine how it would go, because I kept telling my mom that I believed in the justice system. I did back then. I believed in it because it's set up in a good way. It's set up good. If you're accused in a crime, you sit before a jury of your peers, not just one person giving you an opinion. It is a big group of people from your community that reflect your same views, your same interests. You sit before a judge that is not supposed to be biased. He's supposed to be a level playing field that will give you a fair judgment. This is what we see. This is what we see. We see that police do their job. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm sure for every bad one, there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 great ones. But there's a lot of them that when these cases come up, they just trying to get somebody. They got to close this case. Cases can't just sit open. You can just have all these open, unsolved cases while you trying to figure out who did what. No, they got to close that up. They got to figure that out. Whether it's the right assumption, the wrong assumption. But the problem with the system is they've cut too many curves. They've shaved too many things off the side. It's became tainted by money. It's a money game. You got enough in your account, you can buy your freedom. You can buy your verdict. That's crazy. That ain't supposed to be in our system like that. That means only the rich get off. The poor suffer through it. But that's what's happening. The poor is suffering through it. They send us away with these charges knowing we can't fight them. We ain't got no way to fight them. You give us that free lawyer that is really on your side. That lawyer ain't for us. And if we want any type of fair trial, we got to go out and spend stacks on top of stacks on top of stacks. Who got stacks? I ain't got none. You got some? You know somebody got some? When something happened, when someone died, you barely can bury your people. What the heck we finna get money for defense, legal defense? Thousands of dollars, thousands. Let me tell you, it was thousands back then. I can only figure what it is now. Crazy. They know we can't fight this stuff. They already know when you walk up in that courtroom, you already look guilty. You look like you did this. They don't understand our way of dress, the way we express ourselves with our hair. They don't understand that all they see is you fit that description. You look like that. You look like someone that did it. That's exactly how you go in through trial. So I thought the system was fair. And I said, yeah, so we gonna find out at the end of this fair trial that they don't have anything. Just like we it's been publicized with O.J. Simpson that because the glove didn't fit, you had to acquit. You don't have the evidence. I didn't know you can put somebody away without evidence. Nothing that they can touch. You don't have to have fingerprints. You don't have to have murder weapon or crime weapon. Not murder weapon, crime weapon. You don't have to have that. You don't have to have anything. You need a person that said, yeah, she did it. Yeah, he did it. And you are gone. And a lot of times they're backstage willing and dealing. Putting this person against that person. If you say something about that person, then you can get off. And if you say, when it's your life at stake, you ain't finna turn. You ain't finna turn on that person, this person. Your life at stake. You ain't finna turn. You gonna stand your ground and tell your truth? You trying to get home like everybody else. So these are things I didn't know. And you know what? I can't blame you if you don't know. They don't want you to know this. That's how I was able to keep going on, because the average eye thinks that everything is fine. It's not fine. There's infection in the system. It has an infection, but on the outside, it looks like it's good and healthy and working. They rehabilitating our loved one. Dave, that's a different story. Is prison really rehabilitating anybody? Can you let me know that in the comment system? In the comment section? Is prison rehabilitating? Because prison is supposed to be where you do something wrong. There is a need for prison. You have to have a prison. Because when people actually do things wrong, you have to be punished. Even with a kid, when a kid does something wrong, they have to be punished, or they think it's okay to do it. So you have to get a punishment. But like it was an interview I just heard from Patrick Peterson. This guy done did over 30-something years in Florida prison. And what he said was the right amount of punishment can change a person's life. But too much punishment can ruin a person, completely destroy them. And that's where they got it wrong. They're not changing the lives they're supposed to change. They're ruining the lives, ruining them. And you want a life that's been ruined for all these years to come back to your society? That's what you really want? Or do you want a rehabilitated person that realized their errors? They're not, they realized they was wrong. Shouldn't have been out here doing this. Shouldn't have been out in the street. Shouldn't have been doing this. And they're able to curb their ways and come back to be a viable part of society. Many of these prisoners that y'all mark off could be great citizens now. Probably better citizens than we got now. Y'all marked them off. Y'all threw them away. You committed a robbery, go away. You're done. Your life is over. You're no good to society. You can never do nothing for the human race again. Really? But that's how they set you away. They send you away like that. None of this did I know back then. I believed in our system. And the reason I don't believe in it now is because what I thought should happen in his case didn't happen. And so crazy back then, I thought that this was just some crazy this was crazy. This was an injustice. This can't be right. This was a mistake. Y'all made a big mistake, you guys. Come on, please help me. This is a mistake. I didn't know. It ain't no mistake. It's a design. They designed it like that. Do you know how many of the same type of stories that I tell about Marcello, I actually hear from others? How they didn't get fair trials. I seen a grown man. When I found out my little rap buddy, we were finna to be famous. Honestly, I was that freaking good. And with him, we had some hot songs out back then. We was doing the darn thing. And he was young. He was much younger than me. He got in some trouble. And it was like he was facing he was facing some time. And I sat there through his whole trial. Now, his trial went a lot different than Marcello's. They deliberated all day. I sat there all day with him, all day long, all day with him and his mama. Even after I think his mama had to went down to the car, I was still sitting up there on the bench just waiting for his verdict. And the next day I came back, and all day just waiting. At the end of that day, they came to a verdict. And thank God he was spared. It was the same type of situation. This young man could have been a Marcello easily, because this was a trial. But it panned out. It worked out in his favor. He got a few years, and he got out. He had his babies. He moved on. He must have been real good because we ain't do the music no more. But he wasn't marked off from society forever because of that. His children can grow up with him. He could teach his son, if he has a son, look, son, this ain't the way you want to go. You don't want to go to prison. You don't want to do that. Education is key. Education. That's what I drilled in my daughter. My mama drilled that into us. Education. She used to say, use your head for more than a hat rack. All the time we was little kids. Didn't understand that stuff. Understand it now. And I drilled into my daughter the same thing. Education. Do you know in the 3rd grade, they decide by grades, the grades your children are making, whether they're going to make some scholarships for your children or whether they need some more prison beds for your children. How in the world a child in 3rd grade, you already marked them for failure? You marked them for failure in 3rd grade. That's what they doing. Anybody that got some sons or anything, you better wake up, because if you don't get your son on the right path, they got a path planned for your son. It's crazy. I didn't know none of this. He didn't know none of this. He didn't even know. Now, after hearing all these different people that I done seen that and got caught up in stuff and this and this and that, really, if Marcello was looking like he was going to take that 17 years, like, hey man, 17, that's way too much. Can you work something better out? They probably would have came up off of that 17 and walked it down. But see, by Marcello being dead set, I'm innocent, I'm not doing time for something I didn't do. Oh, they already knew he wasn't bending. He wasn't breaking. They couldn't break him. So they broke him. They broke him. They broke him in a different way. But they couldn't break his will to fight for his life. They couldn't take that from him. They took his life instead, but they didn't take his, will to fight for his own life. He did that. He took that to trial. He stood behind what he believed. And I stood behind him. I stood behind him too. I believe in my heart that, honestly, as I go further along, I really don't believe a robbery took place. You'll figure that out once I get to the end of my story, because I'm piecing this together. I honestly don't even believe there was ever a freaking robbery. How about that? But my dad told me, I sure went off the deep end. My dad told me, he was like, Keita, these things happen and you're just going to have to find a way to move forward. And it was crazy that my father was more gentle with me in that moment than my mother was. Get your ass up, Keita, and go on. Yeah. But so Got up out that bed. I was the artist again. So we started preparing for sentencing date. All right, so sentencing date, I was supposed to get the character witnesses together. People were going to write letters telling how he does this. He's a great father. He's a great family member. He works. He doesn't. I searched and searched. I couldn't find a family member to write any letters for him. I don't know a lot of other people that know him because he is not from Florida. So I don't really know a lot of people that like knew him growing up. I don't know anybody that knew him growing up, to be honest. He didn't really keep a lot of friends and stuff like that. So it was really no one I can go to. I did try to ask he was on house arrest, so I tried to ask his officer if he was able to write him a letter saying that he's been great while he's been on house arrest, that he's been looking for jobs actively and doing this and doing that. He had enrolled in some GED courses, and I was taking him to the GED courses, and he had ended up with a construction job. And he said that that's not in their interest. He can't write that letter. So only letter that was written was mine, the baby mama. How credible does that look? Yo, baby mama, that's it. That's the one sitting in the your side, when they have the courts, the people on the different sides. So on his side, I'm sitting there and that's it. The baby mama. Okay. They already felt like, he don't have nobody that care for him. Nobody's thinking about him. We could do pretty much what we want to him. And that's what the judge tried to do. So I got up, and I wish I had this story. You know what? I would have it somewhere. But I wrote this plea. Like, please, he's the one that helps me with my daughter. He's the one that paid her babysitting. He paid that out of his pocket. I didn't pay for babysitting. I couldn't afford it. He's the one that when she didn't have insurance, he was the one paying out of pocket for all of her different doctor visits and stuff. He was the one, she was a little greedy baby. When that little milk, that wick run out, he was the one buying extra milk, Pampers. He was the one watching her. Me and he, but it was both. He was doing just as much as I was doing. We were a team. And I pleaded to this judge, if you take him, what do I do? What does my child do? After pleading and crying and everything. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the outfit that I wore I was the artist. So the outfit that I wore to trial, I sold myself. I designed it. I had bought the little fabric. I used to love to go back then. Walmart was 24 hours and they had all this different fabric and I used to love it. And I worked overnight. I would get up to like middle of the night and just go up to Walmart, get me some fabric and start sewing. I used to sew all the time. So I made my outfit. I was ready. We were ready, and prepared. But it was me. It was an army of one fighting. So I went and I pleaded, please, what do I do if you take him? Or just pleading for, please, not some unreasonable amount of time, like 17 years. A couple years, maybe I could hold it down a couple years, but 17? And it was an advocate that came, and they was like, this doesn't make no sense. Marcello don't have no priors. Most time, people that commit these type of crimes have some type of juvenile record. They have this, they have that. They have things leading up to it. They don't just bust out and just commit robbery. So they were like, you know what? He's 19. He's young. he can be, rehabilitated. Let's send him to boot camp. And again, I will never forget this judge's response. The judge said, we're not even going to consider any type of boot camp. I believe that if Marcello Jackson was not stopped, the two victims would have been dead. They jumped to dead. How they finna be dead and they ain't even fired no weapon? How they dead? What you gonna die from? But if Marcello Jackson was not stopped, these two guys that you see would be dead. So Marcello needs to feel what he did, the weight of what he did for the rest of his life. That was that man's words. He said, if he was my son, I understand, I know. Sorry, that was the doorbell. But he was like, if he was my son, I would want somebody to have mercy on him too. But I feel like if Marcello Jackson was not stopped, these two guys would have been killed. So Marcello needs to feel the weight of what he done for the rest of his life. He said, honestly, I want to give him life. But just so he has a second chance of life one day, I will only give him 40 years. Gavel hit that desk again and it was a wrap. Crazy. Yep. It was over. That's when I had to, they took him to 33rd. That's the jail we had here. Took him there and it was over. That song that Alicia Keys had out, Falling, that video, that was out, that was big. And it was like, I would see that video. That was the only thing that I could relate to. That was the only thing that I seen that seemed close to what I was going through. And they also had that one movie by Q-Tip, Prison Song. I used to watch that movie out. Every day I was watching that movie. It was the only thing that I could relate to. It was, I didn't see nobody going through this. I went through this alone. Alone. Really, like for real, alone. So, I felt alone. I didn't see anybody else around that was going through this. I didn't have nobody to talk to. You try to talk to people. People give you the same responses. Just leave them. Like, he shouldn't have did what he did. All right, I guess that's my cue. The video just ran out, my storage again. So before I close up this video, I think it actually ended in a great spot again. It's all like piecing itself together. But before I close this out, I do want to show you two pieces of artwork that I've done, two different mediums. One being my writing skills combined with my drawing and illustration skills. And then the second one is going to be a rap that pertains to this subject matter. So the first one, this picture here, I drew this a long time ago. And I drew it even before it was shared. It says I shared it on Facebook September 30th, 2010. This is a long time that I've been working on Project Reach the World since 2006. So here it is. It's called Visitation. It was 2001. I was 21 years old and my daughter was 9 months old. 21 is usually about partying and having fun with friends. At 21 years old, I was dealing with single motherhood. My daughter's father had just got sentenced to 40 years. That was so inconceivable to me. You know, we had planned so much. All those plans just went down the drain. One moment altered the whole entire course. Marcello was a very good father. He spent every waking moment with our daughter. When he first went to jail, my daughter could sense something was wrong. She jumped at the glass when we would go visit him. She would jump at the glass and it would look like she was wondering, why won't daddy pick me up? As she jumped at the glass and touched on the glass and put her hand against where his hand was, but she couldn't get him. He was so close, but yet he was so far. And I knew she was like, why won't daddy pick me up? She didn't understand. Project Reach the World. Okay, so the second thing that I am going to share with you is a different form of art that I do. You know, I started out as a spoken word poet, but this one right here is not a. I'll link in the bottom a couple of my poems. I have one called 1020 Life that I did about this situation. You can check that out. And then I'll link another one that people used to mistake all the time for being Maya Angelou. It was not written by Maya Angelou. That was my poem. They thought I was just copying her. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was inspired. When I heard Phenomenal Woman, I was definitely inspired by her. But I wrote this myself. So I'm going to link both of those. That one's called Little Black Girl. I'm going to link both of those in the description box. But for today, I'm going to do a rap for you. So I flipped my poetry into being rap. And this one is called Statistically. And the reason that I wrote this song is because little kids, remember when I told you about how they decide whether your child, way back in like third grade, if they're going to prison or if they need a scholarship for them. And that made me think, how can you just label them way back then? You don't even know, they're not fully developed. So we all have statistics that they done put out about us. There's a statistic made about the black woman that she'll be pregnant, she'll be single, and she won't finish school. She's angry and black. And there's statistics over young black men that they're gonna end up in a grave or they're gonna end up in jail. And that's just not who we were created to be. We weren't created for that. That's a statistic. But you don't have to live up to your statistic. I didn't live up to I at one point in life did live up to my statistic. But I went back and corrected that. I'm no longer that statistic. My daughter did not. Do you know the statistic over a child that has a parent in prison? Their statistic is to end up in prison as well, to end up on substances, to end up with all types of stuff going on in their life because they're dealing with all this depression and anxiety. They're statistics. So I call this statistically. Statistically, I done became what they thought I'd be. A young single black mother with no degree. Well, if this the game, it seems like it was rigged up to me. Yeah, massive fiancé, and don't lie to me. Now statistically, he done became what y'all thought he'd be. A young black male in jail or on the streets. Well, if this the game, it seems like it was rigged up to me. Yeah, massive fiancé, and don't lie to me. So much potential. Why the heck I'm working 9 to 5? His ain't close to me. How the heck am I gonna survive? And yeah, I know I'm working, but why I can't get food stamps too? Tamika and Candy get them, and they ain't got no job to go to. Oh, I guess it's because I did put the kid down on child support, but he was taking care of his kid to the day they sentenced him in court. Man, I wish I listened, took my hot tail to school, then hot tailed it to college, learned every single golden rule. Instead, I found comfort in a man that meant me good. And it ain't no commitment, and too many chickens in the hood. It's a little too late, city cry over the spilled milk. My problems today is a direct effect of my past and my consequences. Man, I had so much going on for myself. Who knew my life would end up this way? Now, statistically, I done became what they thought I'd be. A young, single, black mother with no degree. Well, if this the game, it seems like it was rigged up to me. Yeah, massive fiancés, and don't lie to me. Now, statistically, he done became what y'all thought he'd be. A young black male in jail on the streets. Well, if this the game, it seems like it was rigged up to me. Yeah, massive fiancés, and don't lie to me. From the get-go, they told him that he couldn't be nothing. He wouldn't amount to none. Look at him now. He's exactly what they told him. Like they predestined him to be. Statistically, the epitome of these gutter grimy streets. He wears his pants down to the floor because that's all he know. Ain't like his father was there to tell. Or maybe show him now he's a player, pimp, gangster, and everything in between. Can you really actually blame him? The streets and chased off his dream. See, the streets is his reality show. And he's the star. He gets the money, the bling, the women, the fancy cars. But somebody please tell him the ending. I don't think he knows. The ground to jail for 20 is how it goes. See, when a baby is born, his mind is just like clay. You gotta mold it and tell him that, baby, it'll be okay. You gotta tell him that he is a king and women's queens. You gotta tell him to never give up on his dreams. Now, statistically, he done became what y'all thought he'd be. A young black male in jail on the streets. Well, if this the game, it seems like it was rigged up to me. Yeah, massive fiancés, and don't lie to me. Yeah, it's your girl Cadillac. And if you didn't know, I actually got to perform that rap right there on the Tom Jordan Morning Show for one of their Sky shows.
It's a Cadillac.